this is Kerry from Your Level Best, and today I'm going to share with you how you can handle the dark meat from your deconstructed turkey. As you've seen in a previous video, I had deconstructed an entire turkey and I cooked the white meat for you, but I didn't do anything with the dark meat. Now, I think the white meat is more of what you want to serve to your guests. It slices nicely, it's juicy, it's more of what people think of when they're eating turkey. Now the dark meat, unless you've got people that you're serving that are really into eating dark meat at like your Thanksgiving table, then you really don't need to deal with the dark meat that day. You can do something else with it. And that's what I'm doing here. However, if you do want to serve the dark meat along with your white meat for like a big Thanksgiving dinner, check out the Deconstructed Turkey blog post. That has the recipe that includes how to do the white meat and the dark meat. So I'm actually doing dark meat today. I'm actually going to do Tarragon Turkey. This is a riff on Tarragon chicken, but I wanted to do something kind of interesting. I'd rather make a meal out of something rather than just cook the meat, just because it's a little bit easier to portion. So let me go over the ingredients on what I'm going to make today. So I have my 6 pounds of leftover turkey legs, and I also have the back and neck, which has a lot of meat into it. So I've got this ready for braising. We're going to use our slow cooker today because braising is the best way to cook this stuff. It needs some time for the connective tissue to break down and to really get very moist, juicy, and flavorful. So I've got the rest of my deconstructed turkey here, the dark meat. I also have some cabbage. I have some mushrooms and carrots. I have some broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Now the broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and the cabbage will contribute some vitamin C to the recipe, and the cabbage will give this some bulk, because one of the things when all of this cooks down, there's not going to be a whole heck of a lot of bulk, but the cabbage will provide that. I also have some chicken broth, some whole milk Greek yogurt, homemade of course, some onions, some dried tarragon, and pepper. So that's it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put everything in my slow cooker. This is going to be a really simple recipe. So let me take off the top here, and I do have a bag. It makes life a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cabbage in first. And this is going to fill up most of the slow cooker. There's quite a bit. And don't worry, this is going to be quite full, and you won't have to worry about this being quite full for long. So I'm also going to put in my onions, and I'm going to put in my mushrooms and carrots. So I'm actually going to try and get a good bed here of these things. I'm going to push it down a little bit because we're going to need all that room most certainly for the meat. So I'm actually going to take my legs and I'm going to place them, and it might take a second to get this placed properly. So go ahead, let me take my backbone here. Now I did include the backbone just because this will provide plenty of meat. So let me do that. I'm gonna move this around a little bit. It might take, and you'll also notice I removed a lot of the skin. Whew. Because the skin can be a little bit funky. It also gets a lot of fat into the broth that you don't need. So I tried to remove as much as I could. It was a little bit more difficult to do with the backbone, so I kind of left it off. So I've got that in there about as good as I'm going to get it. I do have a couple of bones and pieces of meat there. Now let me get this out of the way. The broccoli and the Brussels sprouts, along with the yogurt, I'm going to add later because these are quick cooking. I don't want these to get overcooked, and this can get really nasty if you leave it in for the full 8 hours. But I am going to take my broth and I'm going to add the spices to it, and I'll give this a little stir just to make sure it's more evenly distributed. I'm going to add this to the slow cooker. And I'm using dried tarragon. You can use fresh, but I find the dried works a little bit better. So, what I'm going to do now is very simple. I'm going to go ahead and place the lid on my slow cooker, and I'm going to cook this for 8 hours. And this is a very large slow cooker. This is my 8-quart slow cooker because I wanted to get everything in here. But it looks a bit full, don't worry about it. The cabbage and everything will cook down, so you don't have to, if it's a little bit hard to fit the lid on at first, don't worry. So low on 8 hours, and if you really need to, you can do it for 4 to 5 hours on high. And what I'll do after that is I'll shred all the meat and everything, and I'll show you the next step. See you in a minute. Hello everyone, and welcome back. What I've done so far are a couple things. I took out the turkey bones with the meat, and I shredded it up, and I threw it back in the slow cooker with the vegetables. I stirred the vegetables up a little bit, and I also took the 2 tablespoons of cornstarch that's listed in the recipe with about a 1/4 cup of water, and mixed that up and threw that in here as well, and left it covered, bubbling for about 15-20 minutes, and that thickened the sauce. So now that we're towards the end of the cooking process for this particular dish, I'm going to now add the broccoli and the Brussels sprouts. So I'll go ahead and add those in right now. And I'm going to leave these up top so they can steam a little bit, but I'm going to keep an eye on it just because I want to make sure these don't get overcooked. So I have one more thing to do after this. This will be about 30 minutes. It may take a little bit less, but I'm going to keep an eye on it, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're ready for the final step. See you in a minute. Hello everyone, and welcome back. I'm going to show you what this looks like, but first I have one more thing I have to do. So I'm going to go ahead and lift the top off this, and I'm actually going to take a little bit of the liquid. I have the yogurt right here in front of me, and I'm going to take a little bit of the liquid. Let me move this out of the way, and I'm going to add this. And we don't need a lot of liquid, but I want to start tempering the yogurt. So let me get this on the counter here, and I'm going to start heating this up. This is pretty thick. The yogurt that we make at home is pretty thick. So I'm going to keep loosening this up, because what I don't want to do is add a whole bunch of cold yogurt to the hot liquid. So what I'm doing is actually tempering the yogurt, slowly warming it up a little bit so that it's not going to turn into a mess when I add it into the stew. So let me add just a little bit more liquid. It's almost there. I just want to warm it up just a hair more. Trying not to put in too many veggies. I'm looking mostly for the liquid, and oh gosh, this looks really good. Okay, a little bit more. Okay. And the broccoli, by the way, is really green, and so are the Brussels sprouts, and this yogurt is actually going to add some creaminess. We thicken the sauce with the cornstarch. Perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and add this in. And I'm going to give this a big stir. So this should look amazing once I get this stirred in. It looks amazing already and smells really good. I mean, this is, a little bit of yogurt on the fingers there, but wow, this looks really tasty. And I think when you actually take the dark meat and handle it in this way, it makes such a beautiful stew that you're glad you kept the bones and the meat, and it's much easier to pick it clean when it's cooked. But let me show you, let me put a little bit in a bowl here and let me show you what this looks like. And if you haven't had a chance here, take a look at what's in the pot. You can see here that there are good bits and pieces of broccoli. You can't see the cabbage so much, it's broken down a bit, but it actually adds body to the sauce, which is wonderful. And you can see the bits of turkey and the big carrots and also the mushrooms. Oh, this looks great. So let me put a few little bits in the bowl here to just show you. And wow, this looks really good. Let me get a couple of carrots and some mushrooms. And you can smell the tarragon. It's absolutely amazing smell. You can see that there are colors, very beautiful colors in this bowl. My God, it is so beautiful. And I hope you give this a try. I hope you take and deconstruct that turkey the next time that you want to make a family meal. And take that dark meat, and instead of serving it on the platter, unless you got somebody who's really dying to have, you know, the turkey leg, go ahead and save the legs and the backbone with all the parts, and then put them in the crock pot. Do this. You're actually getting a second meal out of it, and it actually saves you money because you're using the breast meat the way it's best intended to serve, with a little bit of gravy, potatoes, and other things that you want to do. But the dark meat does better this way, and you won't be sorry making this dish. So I hope you make this dish. Check out the blog post for all of the ingredients and the measurements and the technique. And I'll see you next time.